if we're struggling with the desire for the things of God, for the Lord, then maybe we should stop and worship. What about our desire in our life and our marriage? What about if God's saying there, and when he says that, he's not talking about he gives you the desires. He gives you the new boat or the new car or the new dress. I think,
though, that's the way
that's interpreted, but that's not what he's talking about. He's saying actually it's not about that. He's talking about actually dropping in or seeding in your heart the desires that he has for you, the things that God has for you.
The desires that line up with his will for our life.
Thanks for joining the Home Matters Podcast with Eric and Gena Boggs, where they lead authentic, raw discussions about marriage, family life, kids, intimacy, and sex from a biblical perspective. Here's your host, Eric and Gena Boggs.
Well, we are so excited to be with you for Home Matters today. What are you grinning about over there?
I was just kind of doing something when they told me it's time.
You weren't ready?
I'm ready. I'm good.
Okay. He's paying attention to something else. But I'm glad that you are here. Man, we are it's springtime, baby. I love springtime.
I know you do, and I love springtime too. My only problem is, the snow thing.
Yeah. He loves snow, and where we live.
I actually predicted that we would have a big snow through this last winter.
But I still love you because you
getting kind of out of that.
Yep. We didn't get that. So,
yep.
But I love springtime. Everything's blooming. I mean, I came out today and I got purple flowers in the yard, and I mean, it's time for me to put my hanging baskets up, my ferns.
Time to kill some more ferns, huh?
Stop it. I've been doing better the last few years.
Them things, I've seen them not do so well.
No, you have to say that.
You've done better.
I've done better.
She's done better.
Yes, I'm trying to.
We had great tomato plants that she pretty much nurtured and nursed. I might have helped plant them or whatever, but again, she got those things grown, and the deer liked them.
Yeah. Eat them.
So right here in South Carolina where we're at.
That was last year, so.
The deer were able to get a good, healthy meal on tomatoes.
Yeah, you're welcome, little deer.
Yep.
Oh, well, what are we talking about today?
Well, we try to talk about the whole piece of intimacy and sex and marriage. And I know that is kind of a thing that a lot of people are uncomfortable with when it comes to the church, especially. I was reading something the other day again, talking about how much sometimes this one particular writer, he talks about the intimate relationship in marriage a lot, and he was saying, there's so many people that disagree with him for even talking about this stuff. But again, it's something that we've committed to, and we try to
I think in the right setting with the right audience.
Often.
In the church, I think we're amiss if we don't try to lead people in God's word and what he says about that intimate part of your life.
And the big part that we see in a practical place is we see so many couples that have allowed the intimate relationship to die. And I've always said I've never dealt with couples that are in trouble that have actually said our intimate relationship is good and healthy. And when I say that intimate relationship, I'm not talking about just sex.
That's right.
But
just talking about
the whole. Go ahead.
Yeah, just the intimate piece that involves our conversation and here's the word.
It's our love relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, our knowing of one another, and so that's kind of what we're leading into today.
It is the relationship that's reserved for marriage, though.
Right, only place.
And again, when that's not healthy and that's not vibrant and alive, then you're going to deal with the issues along the way. And if you're not one, then you're dealing with them separately. And the way you become one, the way you know each other is just like our relationship with God. We spend time together.
Yes.
We talk together. We're intimate together.
That's right.
We know one another in every way.
That's so good, yeah.
Again, it's important that you realize your intimate relationship is so much about it that mirrors or reflects our relationship with God. We talk about it a lot in the Song of Solomon.
Right.
How it's very clear there that the intimate relationship of the husband and wife
That's right.
It is a shadow and type. It's a metaphor of our relationship that we're supposed to have with the Lord. And when that's not happening, man, it can cause some real problems. And again, you don't have the strength that you should have.
That's true.
I'm having to fix something here.
You got trouble with your ears?
Yep. But anyway.
What we're looking at today really, though, is desire. Desire in the marriage relationship. How we can fuel that desire. Maybe you say, I don't have any desire, or, my desire is kind of, up and down. How do we fuel that? How can we increase that so that we are drawn together?
Yeah.
So that there is the desire there that we need. Even I know in my own personal walk with Jesus, there have been times in my life where my prayer has been, God, increase my desire for you. Increase my desire for your word. Increase my desire for for that prayer time. Because even in my relationship with him, there are times when you just feel like the word is alive. You enjoy reading the word. And then there are times when you're reading the word and you're like, read that again. There's nothing there.
You know what he says, though, about desire? In Psalm 37, he says, if you'll delight yourself in the Lord, he will give you the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
And I believe that...
Whoa.
Excuse me. I believe that really what God's laying out for us there is if we'll find ourselves in worship, we'll find ourselves in wonder and adoration. If we'll delight ourselves in the Lord, then he will actually give the desires of our heart. And that means that if we're struggling with the desire for the things of God, for the Lord, then maybe we should stop and worship. Maybe we should just find ourselves, kind of catch ourselves away.
Caught away with
and
him.
Boy, I'm really about to take that and maybe step in the wrong place with it. But what about our desire in our life and our marriage?
Yeah.
What about if God's saying there, and when he says that, he's not talking about he gives you the desires. He gives you the new boat or the new car or the new dress. I think, though,
that's the way.
That's the way that's interpreted, but that's not what he's talking about. He's saying actually it's not about that. He's talking about actually dropping in or seeding in your heart the desires that he has for you, the things that God has for you.
The desires that line up with his will for our life. Yeah,
he'll impregnate you with the right desire. I'm making all kind of noises here.
I'm telling you, I don't know what I'm going to do with you over here today.
But anyway, it's just a place that we find ourselves that if you are lacking desire, what if, we say, God, my desire for my wife or my desire for my husband is not what it should be. Should that be a concern?
Absolutely. I think that we have to understand that just in who we are, just in the natural makeup, our desires are going to fluctuate when you talk about desire for one another, just based upon things like hormones, right? Emotions. Desires are continually going to fluctuate. But if that is something if there's never any desire,
right,
then that's when that's a dangerous
You're talking
place.
About it may be that your sex drive, your libido,
changes.
May change. Does that mean?
Again, hormones change. I mean, the kind of day I've had today, the mood I'm in, the attitude that I have.
Every married man out there knows that through the month, there's some days that your wife's desire sexually,
be true,
her libido is higher than other days.
We're created that way.
If you don't know that as a married man, you need to just step back and think for a minute, and you'll see that it seems like about this time every month that her sex drive is higher. And again, that's what God designed us. Again, not afraid to say that or talk about it. But again, it's not just our libido we're talking about. We're talking about a desire and a craving. Again, does it bring us to that? Sure it will. I think it will. A healthy relationship, it can bring that about. It can bring we always say your intimate relationship is a lot more than just sex, but we do believe that the high point or the pinnacle of your intimate relationship is sex. We believe that is designed only for marriage, premium for marriage, and again, God made it that way.
You mentioned the Song of Solomon earlier, and it's very clear. I think it's in chapter 7. I didn't really put it in the notes here, but in that context of the love and the joy that they're bringing each other, they're being together, the bridegroom talks about his desire for his for his bride.
Right.
And that in that passage, that word literally means his longing for her. And man, I in this marriage relationship, I don't think it's healthy for us to go very long periods of time without there being some longing in our heart for our spouse that brings us to him, her, that gives us, that fuels that desire that we have just to be together, just to say,
just to get an appetite, right?
Yeah, we just need some time. I just desire some time with you. Just, again, the physical part, but sometimes it's just that time, just maybe to go to breakfast or just some time to sit down and have a conversation. So yes, that desire in your life is needed. It's necessary. I think it fuels everything about the rest of your relationship.
Yeah, and again, the passion that should be there. Again, and I think that we have to look at the reality that life happens and people are busy and all that stuff, and you got you're raising kids, different seasons, stuff we talk about all the time. But again, it's the reality is what are you doing
That's right.
to make? Now, again, you said a moment ago we shouldn't go long periods. Paul addressed the fact that even sexually,
right?
And again, I'm going to make enemies here, but there should not be long periods of time where you're not coming together sexually unless neither person has a lot of sex drive or a strong sex drive.
Or if either medical conditions,
a lot of things
that we go through.
But if either person has a sex drive and a desire for sex, then again, Paul's very plain.
Right.
He said it shouldn't be something. He said you'll burn up with passion. You'll burn with passion if you're not taking care of that part of your spouse's life.
Yes, to temptation, things that we should not have to deal with. So
a headache can only last so long, right?
It should, yeah.
I'm just saying that there are people, and we assume that is always the woman. Yeah, but that's not always the case. There are men that withhold sex from their wives.
Right.
And again, there's a graph that some numbers that we pulled from a survey a while back, and it said that a lot of times there's the wife is a lot of times the one that says no, but there are a lot of reasons out there.
Yeah.
And
well, I think that kind of leads into this point about desire. We said, Lord, increase my desire. We can pray that our desire be increased. But is it always on me to
make it better?
Do the things, that increase my desire. I don't think so. That we can say that it's one spouse's responsibility.
Yeah, and for a wife, what would say, what do you do to nurture your wife's desire?
Yeah, or what can I do as a wife to increase my husband's desire for me? What is it my attitude towards him?
Could be.
If he doesn't desire to be with me, is it because I'm go back to Proverbs, am I the drippy faucet?
Yeah.
Am I just,
time he gets just in my presence, pleasant your attitude or whatever?
Yeah.
Again,
or
and that,
is it just my
listen,
desire?
I've seen situations where men say, I really just don't care to be with my wife, even sexually, because, her attitude. And a lot of people think that'd be crazy, It doesn't matter if she's got a terrible attitude, just get undressed, but that's not true. No, men are more emotionally connected than they sometimes admit.
Absolutely.
And if you're, again, if you're just cut off emotionally when it comes to intimacy and sexuality, maybe so. But
yes.
But I would encourage you to realize that, as a wife, your pleasant, your disposition toward your husband, your respect toward him, that nurtures always our desire for our wives.
Yeah.
Again, in a little simpler way, we see you, we see our wives, we see her, we're visual. That creates desire, especially when it comes to sex. Again, we're attracted. We're 37 years in, and 36 actually, right? 37. No, 37. You made that mistake the other day, but again, 37 years. And
what was that all about?
I just thought I'd throw that out there, but I made the mistake just now. 37 years. 37 years of marriage, and again,
almost 4 decades.
I'm still terribly attracted to this lady, and
terribly in a good way, right?
Yes, in a very good way.
You mentioned it kind of.
But part of that is because of respect and the love and the attitude. And your love toward me, that's a big part of it.
Right. And on the flip side, what I was going to say is my desire for Eric is there because I know his love for me. You know, there's affection there. Mm-hmm. There's affection there when he knows it's impossible for sex to happen at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like non-sexual affection. I mean, there's encouragement there. There's affirmation.
I feel your love, Tank, right?
That's a great way to put it.
That love language thing.
Yeah, all the love languages. Maybe. If you haven't read it as a married person, you need to. But how do we give and receive love? Mm-hmm. If we know that about one another, then, you know, we act in a way that makes us desirable.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the person that we are married to, in relationship with. So
if we're struggling, again, if you're out there, every married couple, I hope you hear this, if you're struggling with desire for your spouse, then I think one of the things you've got to do is you got to talk.
Yes, you got to have those conversations.
Look, you got to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this, sometimes you need to talk to yourself.
That's good. I was going to say, sometimes the first place you need to start is with yourself. You know, if we don't feel like our spouse desires us like they should, then let's look here first. I'm pointing at myself. If you're just listening online, start here. You know, how can I act? How can I react? What kind of attitude can I have that would make my spouse have more desire for me to start with? And then, you know, having those conversations, talking about it.
Yeah.
You know,
and some people may think, well, it's something we don't talk about. But again, we just encourage you to find somebody to mediate, a facilitator, somebody that helps you talk through, because again, it is not something that should be absent from your life. Your intimate relationship should always be healthy.
Absolutely.
Listen, sex drive may change, but your intimate relationship never should.
It should always be on the incline. Right. You should always be growing. Absolutely.
And again, it shows that even in the senior age marriages, it shows that couples are more intimately satisfied in that time, that place in their marriage than they are in younger years, because they grow together. Their intimate relationship.
Have come to know one another.
You know, I'm just going to throw this in because we're out of time, but in that chart I was talking about a little while ago that says, you know, the reasons that women especially don't want sex, and one of those big biggies is tired, tired,
worn out.
You know, they feel like sometimes that a husband may think everything's all right, then it's not all right. Mm-hmm. I think this is interesting. A woman, sometimes the reason that she don't want to get fully involved in the intimate relationship, even sexually, is because of the satisfaction or the pleasure lacks. And that was one of the things that's pointed out.
Yeah.
And that's something, if you don't talk about that, she don't enjoy it. Or she thinks, you know, her body's different than his. And again, her body may not prepare itself, she may not be able to orgasm even in the time that maybe he does. Or she may think, well, it's going to take me so long. There's too much work. There's too much effort.
It's going to take too much time here.
And again, all we're saying is talk about that stuff.
Yes. Yeah, if you have to have those conversations.
No wonder somebody wouldn't want to have sex if they don't enjoy it.
Exactly.
If it's just a duty.
Right.
So again, it should be that both of you are working at that together.
Yes.
Again, I know my wife and I, we talked about that. Through the years, we've grown in that area, and there are a lot of things that you can do to make adjustments as you go through life.
That's so true. And
it still brings pleasure.
And just to hit this too, if it is hormonal things, if it's medical, you know, if it's emotional, man, get help for those things so that your intimate life can be what God intended it to be, and so that the desire can be there that fuels the excitement, the everything about your relationship.
Intimate life should thrive.
Absolutely.
And if it's not thriving, again, we're not talking about just sex now. We've said it a lot. I've talked about it more than you have, but But we're saying your intimate life should always be growing. It should thrive. Mm-hmm. And again, if the desire's lacking, no wonder your intimate life is lacking.
That's right.
You don't desire one another, don't desire to be together, don't desire to touch, don't desire to show passion and love. That's something you should always keep before you and always realize. And finally, I say it again, delight yourself in the Lord.
Yes.
Go read it, Psalms 37, and He will give you, the desires of your heart. So,
ask Him.
We want you to know your home matters, your marriage matters.
Every single home.
Every aspect of it.
We love you. Hey, see us next time.
All right, bye-bye.